Master Reddit. Subscribe for more videos.
Has someone ever challenged you to something that they didn't know who are an expert at? If so, how did it turn out for you, them? Mine's kind of dumb, but I think it still counts. At work I'm kind of the Google Sheets expert and I make lots of tools for different departments to use. Enter new guy who needed to collect, aggregate and display a bunch of data. My boss was like, send Wish a calendar invite so you can tell her what you want and she'll set it up for you. New guy was having none of that and insisted he was going to do it himself. Well, a week later, he finally has this shitty sheet that doesn't have half the information we need, and we have to have the numbers for the state by tomorrow. So my boss asks me to fix it and new guy is like, yeah, okay, that's not really possible. This is as good as it's going to get. 2 hours later, I send them both a fully functional and automated sheet that does everything we need, and we'll be able to use it indefinitely, which means next time and every time the stupid state report is due, it will already be done. New guy was like, I would have added that in if I'd had more time. New guy sucks. I don't understand these people that cannot admit that someone did something much better than they did, and compliment them. Plus, his excuse is basically admitting that his time management is shit. Thanks for figuring out Google Sheets, and helping everyone in your work. My uncle challenged Jack Nicklaus to a golf game in college, without a clue. The humiliation burns him to this day. All I'm hearing is, my uncle played around with Jack Nicklaus. I'm incredibly jealous. In his entire golfing career, Jack Nicklaus only managed to beat your uncle one time. A buddy mine was at a concert in bad seats and started complaining about it via Twitter. All of a sudden the band starts reading some tweets and calls my friend up to sit on stage for a couple songs. They sit him at the piano and during the next song, they jokingly go okay piano solo. The crowd laughs for a second but then my buddy just starts jamming out as he plays piano in his band. Talk about dream moment, getting to play with your favorite band. A neighbor on my block in Brooklyn challenged me to a pizza bake-off. I recently catered pizza for my daughter's school and word got around the neighborhood my pizza was pretty darn good. My first thought was, this guy is a Brooklyn native, my pizza will be shite compared to his. But there was something about him bragging that I couldn't resist the challenge. He talked up how pizza was in his blood, how his dad ran the pizza place around the corner years ago. I remained silent and let my skills answer for themselves. I got a buddy to let us use one of Baker's Pride ovens at his restaurant. We even had total strangers try our pizzas. Every last person chose my pizza over his. I never mentioned to him that I've worked in pizza places almost every day for the last 30 years. I never mentioned that when I'm not working at a pizza place I'm making pizzas at home at least once every 2 days. I never mentioned that at 9 years old I knew that I wanted to be a pizza man. Here I am 45 and getting ready to start my own pizza business. You go you crazy pizza man Q. This is some inspiring shit. My office announced a laser tag team building event 2 weeks after I played in the laser tag Ultrazone National Championships. Which were an actual thing in 1997. Edit. Sigh, no, this is not a HIMYM reference, which I have to specify every fucking time I talk about it. I was never of any competitive laser tag level. However, my family used to stay at this hotel resort thing every year around Christmas and part of the package was wristbands for unlimited laser tag. My sister and I would go down when they opened in the morning and play until they closed at night. We learned the ins and outs of that room so well and got to competing on various things like who could keep their accuracy highest. My favorite was a challenge to only knife people. You could only shoot someone if you place your gun against their vest. We weren't amazing but it was always fun to get a big group of kids come in and talk trash so we would offer to 2vx them and just absolutely destroy them. When working as a teacher I beat a lot of students in Pokémon battles, cause they didn't think of me being like 15 years ahead of them in fighting experience. Noobs. This is how I trounce my younger siblings at Smash Bros every game really. Fucking teenagers think they're hot shit, no way their old ass big bro is gonna beat them this time. I have been playing since you were a baby. Oh you got a new game, cool, I played something a lot like it on a PlayStation with potato graphics. Get wrecked. My little nephew is such a shit, bragging about how good he is at Smash Bros. He challenged me to a 1v1, and I stomped him as Jigglypuff. He still brags, just not to me anymore. Not me, but my brother and best friend. We were in Baltimore for a baseball weekend in 2009 and hanging out at a bar across from Camden Yards. They had a Silver Strike bowling video game. At our local bar back in Boston we had one as well. I'm decent at the game, but my brother and buddy were fucking amazing at this game. Bowling 300 games and whatnot. So two dudes are playing this game and drinking. We ask them if we can play when they're done. They ask if we want to play them. We said sure. My brother and buddy destroy these guys. Like it wasn't even close. These dudes said it was a fluke and they wanted a rematch, but this time for a round of beers. Again, Annihilation City. But they kept wanting to play, to eventually win a game. No lie, after 13 rounds of beers they finally gave up. They were great guys. We saw them the next day at the same bar and they walked up to us with beers in hand already and said, "Rematch." To this day we still hang out with them whenever we go to Baltimore. And to this day, they have never won. Edit for details. The guys were buying 2 beers each time they lost a game to the 2 guys they lost to, for my brother and friend. The beers were Natty Boh, which is Baltimore's cheap gross awesome beer. I can't remember the price, but they were under $2 a piece back then. They would buy the beers and they'd just start piling up on the table next to the machine, so we were all just drinking them. I'd say around 25 to 30 beers between the 5 of us in 4 or 5 hours. Tab was probably $60-ish for beers, but we were there all night getting wings and a million apps, so we all just paid the tab anyways. Not a physical challenge, but I sell building materials for a living, think Home Depot, but for guys that build skyscrapers and stadiums. There has been many occasions where an old man with zero construction knowledge tries to lecture me on what I do for a living. My favorite. "I'm going to get my lawyer to talk to you because you clearly don't know what you're talking about." Cool, so you'll pay someone to call me, so I can read a contract provision off the screen, which I'm doing for you for free right now. Whatever, dude. For reference, this is clay pigeon shooting, kinda known as trap in the South. Well, I'm from a rural area and not exactly super southern, so when I'd go to other trap fields to practice different conditions there's always be a smartass or two try and place a bet with me. This is definitely an old money sport with some of the guns going upwards of $5,000. I had an old BT-100 that we got in a trade for lead shot and some cash on the side. While not cheap, it was still much lower than other people's guns and people would take that as me being a newbie. They'd learn pretty quick though, since the team I was on went to the Nationals almost every year from 11 to 18. It was always funny because some would be good sports but others would throw an absolute fit. I saw a guy damage a 10,000 Parazzi because someone else beat him before. Even funnier part is there was a guy from the county next to us who could blow us out of the water, and he always shot with an 870 pump from Walmart. Edit. Glossary. BT-100. Browning Trap Model 100, famous for its dropout trigger that can be replaced and repaired very quickly. Lead shot, the actual lead balls that are in shotgun shells, we made them from wheel weights. Nationals, I started going when it was in Vandalia, Ohio, it changed to Sparta later, imagine about 2 miles of trap ranges in a row. Parazzi, famous Italian shotgun, good but expensive 870 pump. Remington Model 870 pump shotgun, the stereotypical pump shotgun, it's good. While I'd never claim I was an expert, I used to be pretty damn good at pool. My aunt and uncle had a pool table downstairs and my parents for a variety of reasons would go over regularly and spend all day there. There was nothing else for us, me and my brother, to do, so we just played pool all day for years. Eventually we got bored and saw that he had a book on trick shots, so we started doing that for fun. Never really mastered them, but they made for really good practice in understanding how to get the ball to do what you want. So anyway, for my buddy's 20th birthday he wanted to go to a pool hall and invited a ton of people. Then he told it was going to be a tournament, drinks for individual games, and a 50-50 type of deal. For the winner he gets half regardless because it was his birthday. Insisted I come and I caved eventually. Get there, first game, they break, and that was the only shot they got. Rest of mine were pretty similar. At the end I just looked at him, told you not to invite me. Found out after that a bunch of them had never even played pool before, felt pretty bad, so I took the money and bought everyone drinks with it. When I was around 10 there was an old man with Alzheimer's in my neighborhood who would often approach my friends and I. He would ask us questions that we obviously didn't know the answer to, such as what's the square root of 2? Which was one of his favorites. One day I decided I'd memorize the square root of 2 to 20 digits. Sure enough, he did ask me the question again and I was totally prepared. He was extremely impressed and of course he forgot who I was, so would continue to ask over and over again. I had my ex-fiancé's little brother challenge me to a game that he was the master of. The game was Halo Combat Evolved. I play this all the time, so I'm gonna kick your ass. He squeaked. Choose any map you want. I replied. He chose Hang 'em High. After loading in, I stood there for about a minute or so. He chuckled as I fumbled with the controller. It's been a while since I've played this. I say. Unbeknownst to him, I had played that game every day since I got it when it released. And by every day, I mean every day. I played Halo into the ground, every difficulty, and by the end I was just goofing off on Legendary with self-imposed challenge runs like only Covenant weapons or pistols only. It was fun. He beelines for the rocket launcher and the sniper rifle. I take the pistol. And then proceed to open a can of whoop ass on this 13-year-old that I still like to reminisce about to this very day. Sniping an angry squeaker halfway across the map using only a pistol, you can imagine the enjoyment. We only played the one time. Not really a you got owned moment, but in college my buddies and I always got the new fighting game when it came out and would put in a couple hundred hours or so on it, basically dicking around with it in online or practice mode before dropping it, but during that time we'd have fight nights couple times a week where we'd all get together at someone's place and duke it out, loser switches controllers. It's not like I never won, but I was always just middle of the pack, and after 2 years of this literally no one would consider me to be some fighting game wizard, quite the opposite if anything. Then, for the first time ever, the group decided to pick up a 3D fighter, instead of a 2D one. Soul Calibur 3 I think, and unknown to anyone in our play group I grinded Soul Calibur I for 10 hours a day, every day, for 3 to 4 years, against 5 people who were doing the same and were just as good as me. It honestly wasn't even fun. After the first half hour they were playing with 200% health while I was playing with 50%, picking random character select, and I still hadn't passed the controller once. And thus it was tacitly agreed that we would all play 2D fighters from then on. Camped out for tickets to the Phantom Menace. Guy in a group behind me challenged everyone to Star Wars Trivial Pursuit for money. It got to my first turn and I ran the board and won without anyone else getting to go. I felt bad, so I didn't even take his money. He still accused me of having memorized the cards to cheat. Nope, just seen the original trilogy dozens of times all my life. What are the tastier questions that came up? I like to think I'm on your level due to the same experience, but do I? A group of my friends sat down to play this way back when. Being as we were all Star Wars nerds, we figured whoever got to go first would win. I ended up getting to go first and was running the board, like we expected would happen. On my last question for the win I got what was the name of the soup Yoda made when he met Luke. I had no clue. None of us did. I lost my turn and the next guy to go ran the board. There aren't many questions in that game I can't answer, but that was one of them. I'll never forget that happening. Chess. I'm a chess master. I think when people hear that they're like, oh he's really good at chess, but what it means is that I've played in international tournaments and beaten other masters and some governing body has given me a title. Anyway, I get challenged a lot by friends who think they're pretty good. What they don't realize is that your average pretty good player is getting destroyed by your average tournament player. And your average tournament player is getting destroyed by a master. I had a friend whose scores didn't align with his skill, and he beat a master once and then never played competitively again. Said he'll never ever do better than that. He still plays with the old men at the mall almost every day. Imagine being so good at something that beating you is a career-ending milestone for some people. Just graduated as a teacher and I've been working as a casual relief teacher. I play lacrosse, which is a small sport already and even smaller here in Australia. I tried out for the last World Cup team and made it to the final cut. I was team teaching with another teacher who worked at the school. Before the period he spoke to me and said, "Hey mate, we are doing lacrosse today. It's a bit of an odd sport and hard to teach, so just wait over there and then you can just help with supervision and discipline." Then walked off. Being a CRT from an agency, didn't really know how to speak to him, speak up. I tried to speak to him and say that I played, but he didn't give me a second, so I just listened and did my thing. Few minutes into the start of the lesson I grabbed a stick and ball and just started to work my around the class, giving them pointers and hints. The way he was teaching was completely incorrect and I didn't want to say anything, so when the kids broke off into groups, I kinda just taught them correctly. He pulled me over at a drinks break and asked how I knew so much, good perform the skills. I told him how I play lacrosse and my playing history. He asked why I didn't speak up and say anything, and I said I tried to tell him. Anyway, I ended up running the rest of the class and even ended up sitting down with him and going through the correct and easier way to teach the game and skills. This kinda qualifies. Not me but my brother, he works for a scientific instrument company as a technical expert in gas chromatography. He and his colleagues went to a trade show to show off their new instrument. A couple of German scientists come up, ask a bunch of questions, breaking the conversation intermittently to speak to each other in German. Little do they know, my brother is fluent in German. He lets them talk amongst themselves until one of the Germans says, in German, "I bet this one is just as shit as the last one." To which, my brother replies, in German, how it is not in fact shit because they've done a tremendous number of improvements. The two Germans, now stunned that they've been caught, politely thank my brother and apologize and walk away. The ultimate, no, fuck you way to have handled that in my opinion. I was a competitive swimmer for 14 years, including 4 years of NCAA, but I'm on the shorter side so people don't assume I was any good. Was at a friend's house on a lake one summer, and a macho guy challenged me to race to a buoy in the middle of the lake, to prove something, I guess. The lake is deceptively large, about a half-mile across, so I warned him that if he isn't a strong swimmer it could be dangerous. He was running out of gas after about 2 minutes, so I offered to let him off the hook, but he insisted he would finish. I went to the buoy and was swimming back when I found him floundering, so I lifeguard swam him back to the house. His ego took a deserved hit that day. Don't get cocky around water, even if you think you're a strong swimmer. Edit, thanks a ton for the W and the votes, but I want to emphasize here how quickly this kind of thing can turn dangerous. I was a lifeguard at the time, and there was another lifeguard present, but even so this was a dumb idea. Don't do dumb stuff in water. I was visiting Kyoto a couple years ago. I'm an American, and my wife and I walked into a tiny bar which had 5 people in suits laughing and talking in Japanese. We instantly knew that this was not a tourist bar and felt pretty out of place. The bartender spoke the most English, so I asked him what his favorite shochu was, and things got a little more comfortable as we drank and the whole bar tried to talk to us. Someone mentioned Mario Kart and I said yeah. So the bartender points to an old Super Famicom in the corner and apparently I have accepted the challenge. I smiled to myself and my wife thinks it's funny because I used to have some skill at this game. Bartender selects battle mode and the guy is fucking phenomenal. I haven't played in a few years and he buries me in less than a minute. The whole bar is laughing and I'm a little stunned. We're on to the second of 3 rounds. I destroy him. 3 balloons to 0. Everyone cheers except the bartender. 2 shots were put in front of me and I throw one down. Round 3. We're down to 1 balloon each and I swear it's the longest battle round of all time. I'm sweating. Shell, dodge. I have him in my sights and I fire. I miss, the shell bounces off the wall and I self-KO. The crowd goes wild. So that's the story of how a self-proclaimed Mario Kart expert embarrassed himself and his country in a small bar in Kyoto. We drank a lot and made a lot of great friends that night that we'll never see again. Edit for some photo evidence, https://imager.com/phi9z6uk